You're listening to MinerTalk on demand exclusively on 600 ESPN El Paso. Stay up to date with MinerTalk by downloading the free 600 ESPN El Paso mobile app.
Hey El Paso, this is Bart Scott, and now it's your turn to sound off on the UTEP game. MinerTalk with Adrian, Sal, and Jason is coming up next on 600 ESPN El Paso.
All right, welcome back. MinerTalk is live. Along with, it's a full house in here, along with Sal Montes, Jason Craig. I'm Adrian Broadus. We've got MinerTalk here, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency, and we're talking a positive MinerTalk today. After all the negativity, after 5 straight home losses for the men's basketball team, and after just a series of, just tough basketball play all around, the Miners pull off a 77-65 victory over Middle Tennessee. I'm not going to come on here and tell you that UTEP's going deep in the Conference USA tournament in Frisco next week. No. That's not what you're coming here for. But what I will tell you is this was a celebratory game for the Miners, and this was a nice way for them to finish out the season. We talked about playing strong to close out the year, the importance of fighting all season long to close out the season, and how much that really means for the Miners, and they did that. You got to give them credit. 5 players in double figures in this game, a lot of balance. Middle Tennessee, a top 4 team in Conference USA, they put the beat down on the Miners in when they played in Murfreesboro the previous time. And I like the way that the Miners responded. Love the game plan today. Thursday, I thought UTEP came out really flat, and this game responded nicely with the 77-65 victory, not only beating Middle Tennessee, Sal, but really dominating them throughout this contest.
Yeah, and what I like the most is, in the final 10 minutes or so of the game, we saw that Middle Tennessee was clawing back in. They were making some plays and answering some buckets, but the Miners able to counter that with buckets of their own and not really allowing Middle Tennessee a chance to gain any type of momentum. I think that's right. One part that really helped them put this game away. But aside from that, too, I mentioned making shots, but for the entirety of the 40 minutes, you saw the same type of play, series in and series out. So very efficient play. They did turn it over a lot, but they were able to make up for those turnovers with being efficient from the line and three-point shooting. So it was a well-balanced game overall.
You talk about the mistakes offensively, 19 turnovers for the Miners, but they forced 19 turnovers.
Exactly.
You look at the shooting for the Miners today, they shot 52% from the floor, 53% from three-point range. They made 8 three-pointers today, followed by, they made 10 on Thursday, and they also were 83% from the charity stripe. So Miners were exceptional offensively today, minus the turnovers on offense. Jason, we usually talk about a Miner loss, especially as of late at home. It felt good for the Miners winning one on Senior Day.
Absolutely. It was a ruckus crowd. The crowd was really into it, and it was just I really enjoyed watching that game and watching them win. And like you said, 8 3-pointers. They were amazing at the line. They were just solid today. A solid game, except for the rebounds, but it was in the turnovers, like you said. But other than that, it was on both sides. So just the energy was just constant. Like it never really slowed down.
I would say this, guys. It was so important for the Miners to close out the season strong. Fans were down on this team. 505-6009 is our telephone number. And I felt like fans checked out around the January time with this group. And I'm saying that it's important for this team, not just for this year, but for years moving forward and for the foundation of this program moving forward with head coach Joe Golding. You want to see improvement. You want to see this team take steps in the right direction. And, this season at one point, losing 7 of 8 games at one point through Conference USA, it hit lows. But there were some peaks of the season. The Jim Forbes Classic really stands out to me. I thought that was a stellar performance by the Miners, pulling out some of those games the way they did in close fashion. And I also would look back on, how they started off conference play with the win against Louisiana Tech. There were highlights of this season. The problem is with this Miners team is too many times they fell into their same old game, which was they would get into a close matchup with one of their other opponents, and they would fall in close game situations. It was so many times where he said, man, Miners played great. Miners had them on the ropes, but they could not do it at the end. And unfortunately for the Miners, that was just something something that hurt them all season long. Jason, for the Miners, having a win to close out the season, I think that gave the Miner fans something more to take home, to kind of give them some confidence about this program moving forward. And it's kind of weird for me to say it's just the last game of the season, regular season-wise, but I think it was important for the Miners to win today.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel it. You know, it was the last game. Definitely, if they would have lost, it would have just like really put a damper.
Yeah, it would have just been like, wow.
But
there's another one.
It wasn't just the win, right? It was really just like I said, the energy that they were playing with and how they won was very important. You know, you could take a win, but you know, if you had like a lot of mistakes and you know you kind of just barely made it out, but they didn't do that. They really fought for that win, and you know, they were solid through the whole game.
Our telephone number today is 915-505-6009. That's our telephone number to get into the show. We're asking you, how will you remember this UTEP basketball team? 2022-2023, Miners finish out the regular season at 14-17 overall. I know a lot of people out there want to know what's going to happen in the conference tournament, as in who is UTEP going to play? Well, there's two scenarios right now, and it's really contingent on today's matchup between FIU and Rice. So since the Miners won today's matchup, they finish out the year 7-13 in conference play. Right now, as it stands, if La Tech were to lose tonight, UTEP would be in a tie for 10th, or it's that 9th, 10th spot between them and La Tech. Since both the teams split the series, I don't know who would end up taking that final spot. But if FIU does lose in this contest right now to Rice, by the way, Panthers winning 84-81. Thank you, Sal. Under 2 to go in this one. If FIU loses this game and Rice hangs on, UTEP will likely play La Tech 8th, 9th seed, and that would be UTEP being the 9th seed in that matchup right there. So it could break out in different ways. It looks like UTEP is just going to kind of fight for that 9th or 10th seed regardless of what happens between La Tech and Florida Atlantic later on tonight. But again, Florida International Rice, that's the game we have our eyes on right now. That'll tell us a little bit more. If Florida International wins, they would be 8-12. They would move up in the standings. Rice wouldn't necessarily move down. They'd still be 8-12, and they hold tiebreakers over the likes of Western Kentucky, and they also hold a tiebreaker over, of course, La Tech, which they'll have a better record over at that point. So, point is, a lot of different ways this could shake up. We still won't know the final team that UTEP will play until that Florida Atlantic Louisiana Tech game tips off at 5 o'clock. But regardless, guys, 8-9 matchup, if that's Florida Atlantic UTEP ends up playing and that's their path, well, that's tough. And if you look at the 7-10 matchup and UTEP ends up playing like a Western Kentucky in the first round, well, oh man, that's another really tough matchup for the Miners to try to take on. Frisco will not be easy. I'm looking at it as I hope UTEP can at least win one. How do you guys look at Frisco right here?
Yeah, you know what? You want to continue that trend, right? Last year they got the 20-win mark, had some, had a lot of people interested going into this year. How can you end the season on a better note? I don't want to say a good note, but a better note, right? We talked about the 5-game losing streak at home going into the matchup against Middle Tennessee. But if you can win in this sense, right, 2 out of your last 3, that leaves more hope than that sour taste in your mouth with that losing streak. So definitely agree. You got to get one out there because they've shown that they can compete. They just got to seal the deal. And if we can be honest, a lot of the tight games that they've played, those final 5 minutes or so have felt like conference tournament games. So
right.
In that sense, if we want to compare it, like they have that experience, but the success part, closing the deal, they don't have much of that. So can they put it together?
Jason?
We've talked about it the whole season. I'll keep saying it. We know what the thing is that keeps us from winning games. If they can just knock the free throws in, work on a couple of threes, I think they'll have a good chance. Now, I'm giving you a promising situation. We already know what the whole deal is. But that is the whole problem that we've had the entire season. It's only been the free throws. If they can do good on free throws, they can hang in there for a lot of games.
That's right.
But that is if they can do good on free throws. And today they showed that they can get it done. I know it's the last game, but they did it. So if they can do it in Frisco, I mean, we really have a fighting chance. I just want to give the city a little bit of hope.
Yeah,
you know,
it
that's
gets
all it is. Like free throws. That's all. They have to do is make free throws.
And you know what? If UTEP ends up on the other side of the bracket where they play 7-10 and they have North Texas, I feel like that's the best path for the Miners to actually advance in the Conference USA tournament. We've said it. If they play against Florida Atlantic in the second round, regardless if they win that first game, I don't really see them advancing beyond that. I mean, FAU is just such a great team in Conference USA. We have to be realistic, and this is a one-bid league. FAU understands that, and they will be on guard in a big way to try to maintain that game. By the way, women's game is going on right now. We'll update you with what happens. Middle Tennessee just missed a layup. 7 seconds left. 60-60. UTEP timeout, tie game, and the Miners will have one last chance right before the end of this one to try to win this. So we'll keep you posted with that one. Miners on the women's side, they're fighting for a 3 or a 4 seed. That's what they could be right now. If they were a 3 seed, Miners would play March 9th. That's a 2 o'clock start, a 1 o'clock local time, 2 o'clock central, 1 o'clock local time. And then if they end up getting a 4 seed, that one will be noon, actually a 12:30 tip-off, and that one will be March 9th as well. So a lot of different scenarios for the Conference USA tournament. I think we'll save more of our season-ending thoughts for those episodes and just talk about this one right now. It's a senior day. Miners get a 77-65 victory. If you want to talk about it with us, 915-505-6009 to get in on the show. I think it'll be a little bit quiet today on the show, knowing it was a noon tip-off, but a great fan atmosphere out at the Don Haskins Center, and we could talk about it with you if you'd like to talk some UTEP hoops. Let's take a timeout right now. What we're going to do is we'll break in action. When we come back, we'll get to some calls. We'll get to some tweets as well. Stay with us. Miner Talk continues, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. More in a moment right here on 600 ESPN El Paso.
Hey, El Paso, this is Freddie Coleman, and now it's your turn to sound off on the UTEP game. Miner Talk with Adrian, Sal, and Jason is coming up next on 600 ESPN El Paso.
All right, welcome back. Miner Talk continues along with Jason Craig, Sal Montes. I'm Adrian Broadus. UTEP defeats Middle Tennessee 77-65. We're presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. As we continue here on the show, let's bring on Ed, who's joining us. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. If you'd like to weigh in on the show, now is the time to do it. Ed, good afternoon. What's going on?
How are you?
Ed, we're hanging in. We're doing fine. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Hanging in there.
Nice. What'd you think?
It was a nice. We needed it more than anything. We needed it. We needed to finish with a positive note. It's been a rough season, but you know what? We really haven't been that far off. I mean, how many games would you say we lost when we were in the game with 3 minutes left in the game?
Yeah, I would say that there are a lot of those. And I would say, it's almost 50-50. I think UTEP is 6-7 overall when you're talking about games decided by 6 points or less, Ed. So you're right around 500, the Miners are, when they play in these close games. And that just shows you it's just pretty much a coin flip when they get in the close matchups.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the keys is going to be to look at the actual percentage of the retention. So if we're looking, what's the average size of a college basketball team? Is it 12 or 15 legally?
Yeah, it's like 12, and then they've got the walk-on players. So, yeah, you could say 15 to 12, or 12 to 15.
Okay, so I'm going to say right now, if we can keep 33% of what we have on our roster without having a total, a total defection like we've had the last couple of years.
So you're saying like 5 guys stay back? 5 guys stay.
If we get 5 guys, we definitely want Onema, and I like that kid from Maryland. But really, what we're really going to need is in the backcourt. That's what we're really going to need. And I still think we need a couple of big guys. But I'm going to say if we can retain a third of what we have, and then make the proper adjustments, I feel optimistic about next year. I feel really good about the coach. I just think there was a lot of close games, and we had some variables that we needed to hit on. Obviously, some of these guys need to work on the offseason on their free throws, but I feel like 33%, a third of what we have, is what we really need, so that we don't have to completely redo the team again.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you there, Ed. Hey, I appreciate the phone call, man. Thanks for weighing in on the show. I would say this. I like your thought about a rule of 5. And, Sal, I'll bring you in on this. I think we'll do this on the season finale edition, but I think it's not too hard to find. I don't really feel like it's hard to find 5 guys out of this group who you could see staying for next year.
Yeah, and a good part, too, is what you've seen throughout the year, but ultimately what you've seen throughout the last 4 games, right? Who's been efficient, or who's stepped up their efficiency, who's kind of regressed. Obviously, all of that is kind of like just eye test and numbers based, and it's all opinion based as well. But yeah, like a rule of 5, that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I feel like with 5 guys returning for next year, that could really help the Miners moving forward, and it helps you develop that continuity. I'll say this about Middle Tennessee. They're a good team. This is probably the first quality win that the Miners have had in a while against, a strong, formidable opponent, somebody who I really like, on their end. And Middle Tennessee is a squad who can really do some damage when it comes to games. So I thought this win was good. Let's see what happens moving forward. Jason, let me ask you this. When it comes to this Miners team right now, do you like the rule of 5? If you had to pick maybe 5 guys to come back for next year's squad, do you like that rule as far as maybe a number?
Yeah, I think, that's like a starting lineup, But 3 for starting lineup, 2, from the bench.
Yeah, I think that's realistic.
Yeah.
You retain guys like maybe Solomon, Onyema, to his point. Maybe you bring back Frazier, and then a couple guys from the bench. Maybe you keep back, I don't know, maybe you get Kevin Kalu to stay back another year, and Jonathan Dos Anjos, who was injured and didn't play throughout the final stretch of the season. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Let's go back to the phone lines right now, 915-505-6009. By the way, those are not my 5. That's just, I'm just throwing those out there. But let's go back to the phones right now. Let's welcome on Eric onto the show. Eric, good afternoon. What's going on?
Hey, Adrian. Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Eric, long time no talk. It's King Eric. You're back on with us. What's happening, man?
Yeah, I've been busy all season, man. But
I get it. No problem, man.
Final regular season game, you just had to hop on here.
Had to hop on. Eric, give us your thoughts. First, give us your thoughts on the game, then give us your thoughts moving forward on the season, as a whole for the Miners.
On this game, like I said, Adrian, it's confusing. I don't understand this team, Adrian. They can beat the number 4 team in the conference, and they can compete with the number 2 team in the conference. But they get blown out by Western Kentucky. I don't know. It's just frustrating. FIU, that's a whole different ballpark. That's a whole different game. They're top dogs of this conference.
Right.
But it's just very strange to me. It's very strange.
It has been a strange year, but I'll tell you this, Eric, when you just watch the games in person, you go to the games, there's an obvious talent deficient, UTEP is less talented than some of these Conference USA teams are going up against, and it kind of just jumps off the page right away. Effort-wise, they hang in with everybody. So just like you say, they can hang in with the second-best team, they can hang in with the fourth-best team, whatever it is, but they can also lose to the 11th place team in Conference USA, or they can lose to some of the worst teams of this league. But that's just what this team is, what this UTEP basketball squad is kind of their makeup, and unfortunately for the Miners, they haven't been able to shake that off this year. I'm not saying they're going to go on a deep run this tournament, but I do think that this win today is nice moving forward.
And that's what everybody expected coming from the season. They don't have a Bryson. They don't have a Sule anymore that is like, when in crisis, give it to them and they get a bucket. They don't have that no more. Solomon is a good little bucket. Shamar is a good bucket. I thought Tay was going to be the bucket getter, but I don't know what happened. But, moving forward, I think they could get a win easily. If they get Western Kentucky first round, I don't want to see Jamarian Sharp again.
Yeah, that's the worst matchup. That's the worst matchup whatsoever. You want to avoid Western Kentucky right now. Even though they lost today 67-33 to North Texas. Woof.
Ugh. Well, I'd rather get a La Tech. I want to get Rice. I wouldn't mind playing a Rice.
I think Rice would be a lot of fun. Obviously, the little rivalry between the coaches. I like that.
Yeah, that would be nice. And to get to people that I want back, I want Solomon back, Frazier. I want Onyema. He's a good spark. Instead of Kalu, I want Derek Hamilton back.
Okay.
I see something in that man. I see something there. And, yeah, I'll bring Dos Anjos back, too. But
Okay.
I want Hamilton instead of Kalu.
Okay, I like it. Hey, good stuff there, Eric. I appreciate the phone call, man. Thanks for weighing in on the show. Jason, go ahead, man. You had something.
I can't do Callum.
No?
Can't do it.
You're out on Kalu.
Yeah.
Sal, any thoughts?
You'll hear it later.
Okay.
Near the end of the show, or maybe on the next episode.
Yeah, I want to save
Yeah.
mine. I want to save like the guys I want and the guys I don't want. Like I want to save that. So let's keep moving. Miguel is next on the show. 915-505-6009 is our telephone number. Miguel, good afternoon. What's happening?
Good afternoon. How are you guys?
We're hanging in, Miguel. How about yourself?
Good. I was at the game today, and by far this was I think the best game they've played probably all season against a tough opponent. And the Miners have hung tough, and they basically from last year we lost a ton of talent. And they played hard all year. They played tough defense. The defense kind of waned the last few five,
Agreed.
5, 6, 7
Yeah, I
games around
agree.
there. But overall, I think it was a good season with what we had, and I think in the tournament, if they play like today, hopefully they'll keep the 3-point, the 3-point making going, and the free throws. So if we can get some of that, I think we can, we can get a couple wins. I'm not saying they're going to win the tournament, but you never know. And I think Conference USA is, they have probably 3-4 really good teams, but I think at any game anybody can lose.
Well, I would say I agree with you in typical years, Miguel, but not this year with Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
So if UTEP can avoid Florida Atlantic somehow in the tournament, that's the biggest thing. But winning today puts them in a position where they might have to face Florida Atlantic. The good thing is FIU did win today, so that kind of shakes things up a little bit in the brackets. So we'll see, Miguel. We'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah, we'll see. And then one more thing I wanted to bring up, and I wanna. This is a kind of a downer, but I was very disappointed in Miner fans this year. I know UTEP led the league or the conference in attendance as we normally do, but I was hoping that fans would come out more. And boo on all you fans that didn't want to go because we weren't winning. Bigger programs, fans show up no matter what. And here, if we don't win a few games, everybody's down and they start not coming to the games, and it's a downer, because you look at today, it was 4,000 fans in there, and it was loud. It sounded like way more than that. And
right.
And if we get, you get another 2,000 in there, or 3,000 in there, it's a raucous place, and it's a big home court advantage, and so I just wanted to point that out, and I hope next year, regardless of what happens, Miner fans, I'm a season ticket holder, and, we made probably 90% of the games, and they were fun, even when we lost, we're downer games, but it's a fun atmosphere, and, hopefully El Paso will support the UTEP team better.
Okay, I appreciate it, Miguel. Thanks for weighing in on the show. To your second point about the UTEP crowd and everything like that, hey, I get it. We've heard this so many times, and I'll say this. I don't really blame the UTEP fans this year. Why should, unfortunately, this is a fair weather town. So, Miguel, you're a diehard fan. You said it. You're a season ticket holder. You're going to go no matter what. And you're right. Fans and the crowd they were excellent today. Jason, how would you say the crowd was today compared to how many people there were actually there? I thought it was very loud, don't you?
Yeah, they were attentive. They were definitely giving it to them as far as like energy. I felt the student section was lacking a little bit, but that's, the whole season student section has been rocking.
Sure.
They've been good. So I, give them a break. It's noon, noon game. But for a noon game on a Saturday, there was a good crowd today. It was a lot of fun.
So.
I felt I felt really good about it.
And think about it this, Miguel. There are 4,000 fans who are showing up at noon for a team that was 13-17 coming into this game, 6-13 overall in CUSA play, and had lost 5 in a row at home. So fans showed up today at a noon game. So UTEP is still number 1 in CUSA in attendance. But Sal, I want you to bring up something that we talked about off air. The CUSA attendance mark really doesn't mean much when you understand this league does not support basketball. I want to compare these attendance numbers to Mountain West numbers. That's a conference that actually supports its basketball. But your thoughts on just that first overall place for CUSA attendance?
Yeah, it's a product of the history that UTEP, even going back to Texas Western, obviously has, right? And fans, I don't want to say living in the moment because you don't want to take away from the special progress that's been made because of that team. And there's a fun fact I want to relay in a bit too, or not a fun fact, but something cool coming up. But I finally remembered the word. It's like a technicality. It's a by default type of stat. So this kind of ties into what Joe Golding was mentioning when he got hired here. He said this school is a sleeping giant. And you mean to tell me on a Saturday afternoon where fans are usually used to those nighttime tip-offs can still almost have that arena half full by attendance numbers? Can you imagine when they start winning, when they're at 66%, no pun intended on the 66, but if there's 66% in Conference USA winning percentage, that can kind of, definitely raise some eyebrows and have fans going to the games. But while we're at it, something really cool I noticed because I was looking up the fan guide for the tournament in Frisco. And on Thursday, March 9th, there's a documentary film called The Loyola Project, and it's about the 1963 Loyola Ramblers who broke the racial barriers and overcame, everything that they did on their way to a national championship. And it says there, quote unquote, like our very own Texas Western / UTEP men's basketball team that won in '66, the Loyola team helped change basketball forever. So it was like a credit union that partnered with Conference USA basketball in the tournament to screen that event. So just wanted to tie that in.
That's good.
Pretty cool.
I like that.
So if you're going to the tournament, be sure to go check that out on March 9th.
That's awesome. I'm glad you mentioned that, Sal. Let's move on. Let's go to Twitter real quick. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter. Shannon Sharpie tweets the show, best effort this year. Cesar Cubillos tweets the program, unless this team gets pillaged by the transfer portal, there are some strong returners in Onyema, Solomon, and Frazier. We lost many close ones and got hurt at the free throw line. Well, at least we're not UTSA. The only thing worse than basketball in San Antonio is their Mexican food. I like it.
Nice.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Caesar. Always brings the heat. Let's do this. Let's take a break right now. When we come back, let's get to our awards. We'll finalize the show. We'll put the bow on this one, and we'll get ready for the CUSA tournament. It's happening next week. Right now, Middle Tennessee leads UTEP 69-66 overtime in women's basketball action. We'll tell you how that one wraps up as well. You're listening to MinerTalk, brought to you by the Oscar Arieta Agency right here on 600 ESPN El Paso.
Hey, El Paso, this is Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. I'm Max Kellerman, and now it's your turn to sound off on the UTEP game. Miner Talk with Adrian, Sal, and Jason is coming up next on 600 ESPN El Paso.
All right, last segment here of Miner Talk as we wind things down. Adrian brought us here, along with Sal Montes and Jason Craig. Thanks for stopping by, Jason.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, always, man, always. UTEP defeats Middle Tennessee. It was senior day, 77-65. Thanks to the Oscar Arieta Agency for bringing us Miner Talk here on the show. Let's give out some awards here on the program, and let's wrap this one up to talk about more here for UTEP basketball. And we'll kind of give our thoughts leading into next week, anything that we've noticed on the season. Jason's got some good stats. We got some final words for myself and Sal Montes, and then we'll wrap this one up. Let's start off today with our Hot Hand Award. This is brought to you by Wind Supply El Paso. First off, let's give out the first award here on the show. This one's going to somebody in senior, Shamar Givens. 14 points today, 5 of 10 from the field. He also contributed with a steal and 7 assists. He was on fire. He had that hot hand today in terms of dishing out the basketball. Played all but 2 minutes in this game, and Shamar Givens earning the Hot Hand Award, brought to you by Wind Supply El Paso. Paso. He was one of 5 members to reach in double-figure scoring. Wind Supply El Paso is your local provider of champion heating and cooling systems here in the El Paso area, and they also carry many HVAC products and parts. Learn more about Wind Supply El Paso online today at windsupplyelpaso.com or call them 915-859-3817. Now, as far as our player of the game, let's go over to somebody in Otis Frazier. When the moments were, I guess, the most crucial in this matchup, Otis Frazier was the guy who really stepped up in a big way. 12 points, 5 of 8 shooting. He also contributed with 4 rebounds, had 2 turnovers in 27 minutes of action, but also contributed with 3 steals. Just love the way Otis Frazier played today. Also scored in double figures and really helped the Miners out when they needed a bucket or they needed help the most. So he is our player of the game. Brought to you by Keats Southwest. They are the leading industry. They are the leaders in the industry in precision metal stamping since 1958 with locations all across the U.S. and in Mexico. That's Keats Southwest. Learn more online today at keatssw.com or call them 915-599-2950. Guys, as we turn the page, we look over to next week. We'll have to wait for that La Tech FAU game to finalize the tournament to see who will be, I guess, in which seed. But guys, let's close out this one with some thoughts just on this UTEP basketball season and this team in general. Jason, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on this season?
We were talking about all the games that, we lost and how close a lot of those games were. So I just went and did a little up and down. I might be off with a couple of numbers, but out of 31 games that we played the entire season, 12 of those games we've lost with under 10 points.
Man.
And so the other ones, 6 games, were like blowouts. So we only got blown out 6 times out of 31 times.
That shows you right there. Hey, that's a really good one.
That's really not that bad.
What would you consider a
blowout?
blowout? A 15-plus win, or what is it?
10 over.
10 over? Oh, okay, so
over
that's
10.
good.
So anything
Yeah.
over 10, I would say a blowout. But
all close matchups, all within single digits. That's what shows you how close this team has been all season long.
Yeah, 12 games out of 31, really good. So
yeah, I'm with
just to be holding on. Their losses, but to hold on like that, that's pretty good.
Sal, how will you remember this season? That's a loaded question.
It is. I'll think of this season as just a scrappy defensive team who found themselves in a lot of similar positions night in and night out. But ultimately, the game resulted in how it resulted in because of a couple things that they just got bested by, or they what's the word? They outgutted the other team. So it's a gutsy team for sure. But as crazy as it sounds, Adrian, the story's not over yet.
Story's not over yet. I still feel like you play for this big one, which is the next one,
yeah.
And that's the first game of the CUSA tournament. It might be Western Kentucky, might be La Tech, might be Florida International. Regardless, the first opponent, Miners need a victory in that first round of the Conference USA tournament. We'll be back at it again next week, guys. So I guess we'll just turn the page. We'll wrap this one up. Thanks to everybody who tweeted the show, who tuned in here to Miner Talk. Thanks to the Oscar Arrieta Agency for sponsoring the show and being with us all season long. Special thanks to Jason Craig, Sal Montes. I'm Adrian Broadus signing off tonight and saying thank you so much for listening to Miner Talk. UTEP defeats Middle Tennessee 77-65 right here on 600 ESPN El Paso.